our last assessment of the situation in the AFPAC region, we had concluded that although there is a lot of talk about political reconciliation in the AFPAC region and in Afghanistan, when we actually look at the ground, on the ground, the tensions are increasing between US and Iran, and as well as between Pakistan and US after the Mumbai attack recently. However, now there are some new developments that seem to indicate that the political solution to Afghanistan is beginning to take speed, and at the same time another development is that the civil military tensions are increasing within Pakistan, and obviously these two are connected. We think as the end game, US end game in Afghanistan begins to speed up, tensions within different institutions within Pakistan are also likely to increase. US Vice President Joe Biden recently told Newsweek, and I quote, "Look, the Taliban per se is not our enemy. That's critical," end quote. Media reports indicate that US has removed the names of key Taliban leaders from the blacklist and would soon be releasing Maulavi Khair Khan, Nurullah Noori, and Fazl Ahmad Fazil from Guantanamo. Joe Biden's comment would have come as a relief to Pakistan. Pakistan feels that the established Taliban leaders are much more amenable to compromise after years of war, and their elimination would mean the emergence of more obscure and unpredictable younger leaders. Nonetheless, the hardliners in the US would like to go after Taliban now that Osama has been dealt with. Thus, the chances of more Momand-style attacks are still there. Then this perhaps is one of the reasons US has not apologized for the incident. US-Pakistan relation, it's the military to military ties that are not going well, and it is occurring at a time when US needs Pakistan's military's help the most. However, there is also a change in the strategy of US in the region and in Afghanistan, that has to do with a realization that Afghan Taliban probably cannot be defeated militarily, especially when Pakistan has not been any forthcoming in this regard as well. So the question has become, how would US manage the role of Pakistan in Afghanistan? And this is where the domestic politics of Pakistan gets connected with the situation in Afghanistan. Over time, as the civilian government became increasingly unpopular due to poor governance and corruption, it has tried to identify too closely with the goals of the US. And it's these dynamics that has given birth to the Memogate fiasco. This is not much different than what President Musharraf did previously. In order to prolong his rule, he portrayed himself as the best bet for the West against the extremists. In the emerging political scenario of Pakistan, those politicians would perform well that harness the public sentiment resulting from the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq, and focus their efforts towards providing public relief. The recent election results in Tunisia and Egypt reveal that the Islamists are resurgent there too. Managing this trend in Pakistan and in other places would mean tempering the religious hardliners with the moderate Islamists. Short of going to war, this is perhaps the best outcome US can expect in Pakistan and from its establishment in Afghanistan. As the end game escalates in Afghanistan, it is also causing tension in Pakistan over the control of Afghan policy, as mentioned before. Earlier this year, Polytech conducted interviews with a sampling of Pakistani politicians and scholars and asked them about the connection between the events of Middle East to that in Pakistan. Most of them believed that there was no relationship, as Pakistan already had a democratic setup. Let's talk to Shahid Javed Burki, who is a renowned economist and keeps a very close eye on the affairs of Pakistan. We want to go to him and ask him what he thinks about these civil military tensions that are playing out in Pakistan. Mr. Burki, what do you think is the future of this civil military tensions that are playing out in Pakistan? Do you think they have already reached a point of no return?
I've been reflecting on this quite a lot. I've written about it also, my view is the following, that the Arab Street, the Arab Spring, has brought a new factor into the political societies of all developing countries. In fact, developed countries also. What we saw in the United States by way of Occupy Wall Street movement and so on was one reflection of what happened in the Middle East. My view is that from now on, it is going to be extremely difficult for anybody to do anything which does not have the broad support of the people. That's why I think the army, which always walked in and took control of politics in Pakistan whenever there was a serious economic problem, is not likely to do that, because they know that the wrath of the street will come out and will have an effect. Imran's rise, I think, is also a reflection of this. People are very unhappy with the current leaders. They are disgusted with the amount of corruption and mismanagement and bad governance that they have, and they are now speaking out. Lahore meeting of Imran, I believe it's on the 30th of October or 31st of October, was an amazing meeting. I went to Pakistan after that. I wasn't there when he had that meeting, and people told me that it was a combination of a festival and a political meeting. Now he's going to have one in Karachi, and if that goes well, then I think he is generating a momentum which might result in his coming in and some cleansing of the system. But as I said before, these things take time, and in the case of Pakistan, things have gone bad for so long that it will take some time before they can be cleared up.
I thank you very much, Mr. Berkey, for giving us time today.
Not at all. Nice talking to you.
However, as we observe the evolving situation in Pakistan, we note that it does not seem to matter that if there is an authoritarian or a democratic leader at the top. What seems to matter most is that if they enjoy public support or not. Furthermore, foreign entities cannot save these governments if they cannot deliver or do not have popular support. And the lessons even from the Arab Spring does not get any elementary than this.